This is Ready Set Reiki, a podcast about Reiki, this wonderful universal energy life force. We are here today and we welcome all lineages and all levels. So we take it from the curious beginner to the seasoned master teacher. So today you are fortunate enough not only to have one guide but two. So I am your first guide, Tracy Searight.
And I am your second guide, Millie Pampina. And I'm so happy to be here today. And I welcome all of you to our podcast. And for those of you who have been staying with us and downloading on a weekly basis, I thank you. We're up to 1,100 downloads per week now. And we really enjoy your input and feedback and are so grateful to you. So right now, I would love to introduce our guest, Jerry Mikutis. I met Jerry at the Northeast Reiki Retreat, sponsored by the Reiki.org organization, William Rand's group. Jerry is a licensed Reiki Master teacher with the ICRT, and that is no small accomplishment. So congratulations on all that hard work and time you put in. Jerry is also a yoga teacher and a crystal practitioner. I have had the honor of experiencing some of Jerry's meditation and practice, and I just found it to be moving and so meaningful for me that I was so happy that she could join us. Jerry has been doing yoga since her first class in 2005 and began adding Reiki and the crystals to this as a way of, cultivating her practice and, giving her the clarity from the stresses of life. So Jerry, I'm going to turn this over to you because I don't want to make any mistakes here, but thank you again for joining us from Chicago on this hot, steamy day. And, please feel free to jump in and let us know more about your background.
Okay, thank you, Millie, and thank you, Tracy, for having me here. Just a little bit about me. I am, as you said, a yoga teacher. I really don't do that much yoga these days, but yoga is what has brought me to where I am today with Reiki and crystal. My background, I come from I think I've always been very intuitive, very psychic, but that was something that has really been not promoted, like both in the family that I was in, as well as the culture that we live in. So I think it's a combination of both, or the time that we're in. And I can remember having looking back, it was very like psychic, intuitive experiences, like just sensing things, like other people's emotions, the situation I'm in. But those like impressions and visions and sensation, but that has been was suppressed when I was younger. And I come from, I think my father was very intuitive, but he was really denied it. He was born in 1933. He's now passed on, but I think it's coming from like a very masculine, like men don't show their feelings, kind of thing. So he had a challenges in this lifetime. And I mean, I think we all do, but and not to be like blaming, I'm not like trying to blame him, but it's just like what part of my journey, and he had his own suffering with it too. But he was a math teacher. I studied engineering. All my friends were engineers. They're coming from very linear, logical, concrete background experience. So for whatever is in front of you, that is what's real, and what isn't beyond that. And so like that intuitive side really got suppressed. And so I studied, as I said, I studied engineering. I came into yoga in 2005 because I couldn't handle the stresses of my life, because I think that I was forcing myself to be a certain way, and I didn't have a way of expressing it, and just completely transformed my life. Yoga really got me in tune with my energy body, but I didn't understand what was happening. And because I think my yoga teacher didn't know. I really threw myself into the practice of yoga. And I started having experiences, and this was about 2007, 2008 at this time. And it was like, looking back, it was like I was having a psychic opening, awakening, intuitive opening, whatever word that you want to put on it, because psychic can be a scary word because in our society. And but I wasn't very grounded in that experience. But it was like something had opened up, and I was like, okay, I feel like this is my natural way of experiencing the world, but I have no idea how to experience it safely, because there were some things that I went through that were scary because I didn't understand what was happening, because I was experiencing reality in a different sort of way. Like one of my friends told me, oh, you took acid. And I was like, no, I didn't. But it was just the extent of my experiences that I knew was real, but didn't fit in with how you think of the world. But anyway, that was about 2008. And I suppressed it again, but I was very curious about it. And I think the universe works in ways. That's one of the ways that I find my intuition. It is internal, but it's also the world around me, because I really believe that we are all connected, that whether or not we realize it, and then people, like, we're always getting signs and messages from things around us, that everyone's a messenger of the divine, even though they don't realize it. So it's like I was just getting, Reiki just kept coming across my radar as a safe way of exploring this world. Like, you can't do harm with Reiki. Reiki is unconditional love. Because I tell my students that, like, you can't do harm with Reiki. And I mean, yes, I talk about in the class that, oh, you should have insurance, but it's because somebody might fall off the table, but not because Reiki itself causes harm. And but this was in 2010 when I really started seriously exploring Reiki. Back in 2010, I think it's partly who I was back then, what I surrounded myself with, and where the world was back then, that these spiritual paths weren't as accepted as they are now. And because I talk about it with my friends, that I think it's funny now that you can just go to the drugstore and you get kombucha, and I had to go to the health food store back then. So I really think there's been this evolution. So what I was saying with Reiki just kept coming across my radar as a safe way of exploring it. I am also, as with my engineering background and probably my lack of connection to my intuition, I didn't know anybody who did this. Even within the yoga circles, it wasn't, back in 2009, 2010, it wasn't very largely to my community with energy work. It was just, yoga was spiritual, but it was a body-based practice, but there wasn't anything beyond that, or at least in the community I was in. And so I finally found someone that I could get sessions from. It was actually a shaman here in Chicago. Like, he did many different modalities, like Reiki. I remember he had something with, like, he had all these different modalities. And when I met with him, I just remember that it completely transformed my life. Like, I started getting sessions. I could sense that my vision was expanding. I noticed that I was walking down the street and people were smiling at me, and I would just be like, I'm not smiling, what are they reacting to? But I realized that it was my energy that was changing, and we're always interacting with other people, whether or not you even say a word to them. It's just like in your energy field. And just that was the beginning of my Reiki journey. I had sessions with him that summer 2010, completely transformed my life. Got my Reiki 1 and 2 that November. A lot of personal healing, a lot of revealing. Got my master a year later, started teaching in 2013. I went Holy Fire Reiki, which is a modality that William Lee Van has. I'm just trying to figure out the right word, because I would say he discovered it and channeled it. He isn't the founder of it. I think there's a lot of misconceptions that he created it. He didn't create it. He was the one that channeled it, that opened himself up, because it's really the divine energy that's coming in. But I started experiencing that in 2016, 2017. And I think that the biggest message, I could really talk all day about my Reiki journey, Reiki origin story, but I really think the biggest thing for me with Reiki is that we all have an authentic self within ourselves. And we're all part of the divine, we're all part of this great collective consciousness, but we're all our own individuals. So it's a lot of duality and conflicting, but they don't conflict, but it conflicts, but it doesn't. But what Reiki has done is really help release those layers that I put on myself, that we all put on ourselves, that prevent from our authentic light from shining through. And it was really that Reiki that doesn't get rid of the problems in your life, but it helps you navigate the storms. So that's my roundabout bio.
I love that, Jerry. That's probably one of the best way, besides your beautiful lineage. That's probably one of the best things I've heard is Reiki doesn't, it's not going to give you, it's not going to cure it, but it's going to give you the way to navigate it. And some of our questions are going to give you a lot of opportunity to expand on some of that. And, so we pretty much have covered a couple of the questions. Tell us a little bit about yourself and when did Reiki come into your life? And thank you. That was really beautiful, beautiful story. I love to hear when people who are so logical and so, come from the business background and the business mode, and then you're having your right and left hemisphere conflicts, and, you make choices that are best for you. And I really appreciate that. And the discussion about the psychic and the intuition, and I'd love to hear more about that. So, as a Reiki practitioner and, a psychic intuitive, do you agree with the common perception about your work, and why or why not? And by that, I mean, you gave us a little insight into not being able to remove those layers, and your father's, suppression of that based on timing and, male female roles and things. So when you are thinking about that, and when you talk to other people like the ones who thought you were on acid, how do you feel, and how do you agree or disagree, or how do you manage that?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, because I really do think that balancing those logical, analytical, and the flowy, intuitive, feminine, intuitive side, I think that has really been a journey for me. I think it might be part of my soul's path in this lifetime to experience and explore that. And because I mean, it's like, I think of that friend that said, oh, you took acid. She's actually one of my best friends from my engineering days. And she is still one of my really good friends these days. And it's just one of the, because like in the beginning, I'd be like, no, I found this amazing thing. I have to force it on you. And I didn't really say I was forcing it, but it was just like, I thought it was so amazing. And she was just like not open to it at all. But I think that the way I have navigated that is I've learned to back off, and then people see how it influences my life. It also has been because they see me as, because I used to be someone that was really angry, really defensive, really just really not in a good emotional place. As I mentioned earlier, that like I was surprised when people started looking at me and smiling at me and making conversations with me. And I was like, I've been trying to talk to you all these years, like just people in general. And then people were just being attracted to me just because these things were being released and removed. And so I think it has been a balance of, we all have our journey, and we all have our, it's not my, I mean, it's kind of like, I see it now, I see it as like, there's this universal truth, and we all have our journey and aspiration of connecting to it. We do live in a very chaotic time right now where we have all these revelations of thoughts, of personal beliefs. And I'll admit, I do get caught up into it myself because I have some very strong personal beliefs about the world. And I start thinking other people are wrong, but then I start thinking like, well, but they also exist for a reason. So I feel like that we're just going through something as a collective, working through it. I feel like on one hand, I see the bird, not quite the bird's eye view, but I do see potential of hope that we're going to agree at some point. But there's also, we're working through it. So I'm kind of like, I can't see the forest from the trees. So I feel like I have that feeling of the hope. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I feel it. So that's kind of a roundabout answer to your question, and navigating that is like I just be who I am, and it's not up to me to determine someone else's truth. And I think we will eventually come to an expansion of our consciousness where we realize that our individual truth do not interfere with each other. But I don't see how it's going to work. I see it in both levels. Like I don't see how we're going to get there, but I do believe that we will get there. And because I'm in the middle of it, because I'm human and I'm having my experiences. One of my yoga teachers, she does a lot. I really like those teachers that have those long invocations and meditation, like Colleen Benelli, Sean Korn is one of the yoga teachers I love. Brian Weiss, he's a psychotherapist that deals with past life, but they all have these using the voice and using words to transcend, to alter states of consciousness. But one of the things that Sean Korn has said in her meditations in the beginning, when she's invoking the higher powers, she says the God of your own understanding. And when I started hearing that, then I was like, wait, we all have our own unique understanding of what the divine is. And just because I experience it one way, some people may resonate with it and other people aren't. And I just have to be like, not like pushing them away, but it's just like, you're on your journey and I'm just going to focus on me.
Yeah, that's beautiful because, I find that, my experience with Reiki, and I've been starting to get into the yoga training, not so I can bend in half like a pretzel. I don't think that's in the future, but more or less, I absolutely love the concept behind it and the teachings and all the beautiful reasoning behind what is all involved there. And again, I always impart to myself and my students, I can change me. I can show you how I've changed myself. I can give you tools, but it's up to you to want to heal, accept the healing and take it and take the blessings and the graces of it and move forward from there, whatever resonates with you. And I love that. So again, common misperceptions about your work. I mean, even from those who don't know you. Does anybody ever give you any kind of indication that why did you leave engineering? Why did you take such a solid, foundation and go off? How do you feel about some of those misperceptions and about your work and your choices?
Yeah, no, I think about my journey. My journey was not linear at all in that capacity because I left engineering in 2002. I thought I wanted to be a social worker. I went to school. I did a year of AmeriCorps. That's when I was born hearing impaired, wore hearing aids from the time I was 17 months to 27. Lost my hearing in the middle of my year with AmeriCorps in Chicago. And then I was completely deaf for a year before I had the cochlear implant surgery. Then I studied social work and child development. Then I finished the child development, but I was under extreme stress. That's what led me to my yoga class, because I needed to find my place of happiness. And I was just trying to find some center of place in happiness. And so I have this very, I feel like I have all these connections to different people and different experiences. And one of the things I've really learned, and so through yoga, I came into Reiki, and I feel like it's always an outgrowth. So I have all these connections with people from all over it, that it kind of like brings into my face like the differences and the conception. What was the question again? I'm really sorry. That
It's about the common misperception about what you do and your work, and what brought you there.
yeah, I guess because it's kind of like the term woo-woo might be the word that we're thinking of, and that it isn't real, because I went through it myself. Because in my yoga teacher training, I think it was probably the second or third week that my teacher was talking about energy. And when I did it was in person. It was back in the days before pre-COVID, in person, 2007. And I remember half the class knew what he was talking about, and the other half of the class was like, we don't know what's going on. And I was part of that, but I could tell that the other class knew something was happening. And I asked, my teacher also had their belief that if you don't talk, that people don't understand it, you don't talk about it with them. But to me, I'm like, but you're talking about it and I don't understand, and you've already opened up that gate. And so, I mean, I think one of the misconceptions that it isn't real, that because I do right now, I do all my work online. It happened after it was a process of the pandemic. I teach online, I do my sessions online, and I would say that before that, I never would have done it. Like I never been like, no, I have to be in person where you can connect. And it was also with me being hard of hearing and deaf, that I needed to see the face. So that's why I don't like talking on the phone. And but so it is I think one of the misconceptions that I have is that what I do online, is it real, and is it connection? But since I started doing things online, I find it, for me, my experience of it has been even more powerful than it was in person. And I can't exactly tell you why, but I think part of it is because I think we are moving into an age of that we are the individual authority, that you are your highest individual authority. And when I'm in person, our energies, if you don't have good energetic hygiene, your energies are bumping into each other, conflicting. I think I'm someone that can be very easily influenced by others. And so when I am in my own space, that I have energetic cleanse, it's my own energy, I can connect more authentically to myself, connect to source, and the energy flows stronger. So I guess one misconception would be that that it is not as powerful as it is in person. But when people have the experiences, I get all these intuitive impressions, intuitive hits, as well as the energy flowing through that I'm not able to do in person. So
I think, you've brought up some really excellent points. One being, I really feel strongly about is that in person is more powerful than the virtual experience. And I know that that's one that Tracy and I, because we both started this process similarly during COVID. And so we came pretty much directly out of the online, the virtual process. And I feel very connected to it because of that. And I always remind people, because I'm very grounded in my religion as well. And I say, you pray, you're sending that out in prayer. You believe in that, there's other opportunities to use that universal connection and to get similar or greater results through using, what you're learning in the energy and those things. So I have to agree that people are, they'll keep grinding on it until they find a way to say no. So, but those who want to consider it or have needs that aren't being met, they can't seem to meet themselves or get off the mark with certain things. Just, it's a beautiful experience. I always tell people, look, it's iterative, it's cumulative. I said, it's like anything else. You take the pieces that you want and you can continue to fill in from there. So yeah, I love that. That's I actually very much so agree with you on that. So looking at, what do you wish your younger self knew about your current profession? What do you wish a younger Jerry knew about what you do now?
I think that I think I had to, that's kind of a hard question because I think I had to go through everything that I did. And if I knew my path before I did it, it wouldn't be the path, it wouldn't be as powerful it is now, because it's like, I don't know if this is feminine energy or if this is my energy, because I think in a lot of business courses or business thinking, they talk about like, visualize yourself 5 years in the future, 10 years in the future. I could never do that. I just could not do that. Yeah, I just really struck. I don't know why. I felt like the things I visualized was not authentic to me, but I see my path as non-linear. I don't know if that's the feminine energy or if this is who I am. And I had to go through the struggle because I really did struggle through a lot of things. And I had to go through those struggles without knowing what was next. Because if I say, oh, this is what I want into the future, it's limiting me from all this other magical possibilities. So I think that the only thing that I would really share with my younger self, that follow your intuition and everything will be okay, even if it's not the way that you think that it would look. So because, as I said, I was studying child development and social work, and I thought I was going to be a social worker. And it was something that really resonated with me. And I really had a difficult experience at my internship because of who I was, the healing I had to do. Maybe it wasn't the structured situation wasn't right for me, all these things, but I had to go through that to have that breakdown to lead me to my first yoga class. And my first yoga class led me to Reiki, and like that kind of implode, like almost like all these implosions that I've had in my life had led me to something bigger that I couldn't even begin to imagine. So so in that context, I don't want to give my younger self any advice, because if I had given myself the advice, I wouldn't have taken this path. Like, one of the things that I have studied is the 7 rays of being, and we as humans are the 4th ray. So the first ray would be the mineral kingdom. The second ray is the plant kingdom. So you think of the mineral kingdom as rock. The plant kingdom is rooted to the earth, but it's the expression of love towards the sun. The animal kingdom is that like 3D, that we can move, like we can direct ourselves, but it's more of like a collective directiveness. And then the human kingdom has the intelligence of all those 3 previous kingdoms, but we are the kingdom that is harmony through conflict, that we have to have the battle with the devil to get to evolve. Because I think humans can be very lazy, that we will sit on a couch unless somebody forces us off the couch for whatever reason. I'm not saying for all humans, I'm talking about my own experience, that we grow through our challenges and our struggles. So I don't think because of that, and seeing my life, I don't think I would give my younger self advice.
Okay. No, I think that's a great feedback, because something guided you, but it you don't necessarily feel that it was always your thoughts, your ego, and guiding you, and whatever it was in combination, like you said, harmony with conflict, you got there. And that's a great story. And frequently the people we meet, they have very similar experiences that they share with us. And I personally I got here for those very reasons. Tracy got here, because we were taking different paths with ourselves and our career, and it's expanded my universe infinitely. So I think that's perfect. So when you think about, what's something that everybody in your industry should stop or start doing? What is something that you've observed? You've been at this for a while. What is your feelings about things that people might want to stop or start doing to improve
I would
manage?
I would say be open-minded, really like just recognizing that you are each, when I say you, I'm talking about you as an individual, not like, I mean, I am talking to you, but I'm talking about you as, and that your truth is your truth, and how, and like what take, like if something resonates with you, go with it. And if it doesn't resonate with you, don't attack it. Like just leave it alone, unless there's some like significant abuse happening or domination, but just, I mean, that's like a different situation, but if it's just something that doesn't speak to you, just put it in the back of your head, walk away. There's over 7 billion people. I think there's 7 billion people, maybe 8 billion now, but it's just that we have so many different expressions and understanding that you can't force everyone to be the same, because I kind of see it. I like, I don't want to be judgmental, but I see it that people think their way of Reiki is the right way of Reiki, and these new things coming out. But it's just like, I really think as part of that we evolve, like not just humans, but everyone evolved. And sometimes like, I think we're all evolving towards this oneness, universal oneness that we're all connected to, but we all have different ways of expressing how to get there. And I would say like just really letting go of judgment, that your way is the only way or the right way kind of thing. So, and I'm not saying all Reiki practitioners do this, but sometimes I just hear this energy of it, that like, oh, my way is the right way. And I get it thrown at me. I'll admit I've been there myself, where I've had judgments of other styles, and then I have to step back and I'm like, no, this is what works for me. And it may change down the line. And I just have to honor and respect other people's way to what their inner truth is.
Okay, wonderful. And question that follows up with that is, what is the biggest challenge that you feel the industry is facing today and down the road 10 years from now?
I think the biggest thing that really strikes me is in the US is that all the legislation that is happening in different states I'm not like up to date with particular details, but I hear about things like, I think there's something happening in the state of Massachusetts about I think it comes up every 2 or 3 years that they're trying to legislate Reiki. And I think as part of it is navigating that, like part of it is financial, that they're talking about putting on these big fees of like to legislate Reiki. And if one state does it, some states might fall, like it'll be easier for other states to fall in line. And my perception of it is that they're trying to legislate something that they don't understand. It's like in some aspects is like, I think one of the things I saw was that that they were trying to measure Reiki, like you put Reiki in your elbow and it comes out your hand. And from my understanding of Reiki, because I've talked with potential clients, present clients, students, I can never predict what's going to happen in a session, because it's not me that's doing it, as I'm letting it flow and it's for the highest good. And sometimes we don't know what the highest good is, because like we think that like, oh, someone who has cancer and has a death sentence is getting Reiki so they don't die. But maybe the Reiki is helping them to have a peaceful transition, or maybe they will get cured from it, but it's not in the limited perspective. So I would say there's so many different elements with the legislation that is happening with Reiki. I know that Reiki.org, the ICRT, is really focusing on that now because it's making Reiki accessible to everyone. It's not just for me as a licensed teacher at the ICRT to practice Reiki the way we do, but it's also like, what is it that respecting and protecting everyone's intuitive way of going about it, because you can't do harm with Reiki. So I really think that is I could see that as a potential because some states have safe harbor laws. I live in Illinois. There is, from my understanding, there's no safe harbor law in Illinois, but it's protected under the Massage Therapy Act and saying that it's not covered under these restrictions. Because so there's all these things with it, but it's just the legislation, because it could disappear, it could go underground, it could, I really don't know what is forwarded that, but that is something that I think is something to be concerned about, or I don't want to use negative terms like concern, but to be aware of.
Okay. That's I know we've all been following a lot of that lately, and it's certainly might be limiting because they really don't have the idea or the education behind what they're doing. So you're a practitioner, you meet other practitioners, you train students. What are some of the qualities that you look for in a Reiki practitioner? So if you were to go and enjoy Reiki, you're always welcome to join our Reiki share, go to another Reiki practitioner. What are you looking for in that individual to benefit you?
I would look for someone that really, I would say is connected, but how do you know that? And, but I would just say that someone that I resonate with, that I talk to, I feel like I can connect to, that they're not working from ego, but they're working from higher source. And I mean, I know those are subjective things, or those are things that I can't exactly, but it's a feeling and it's a knowingness. And that is something that I feel peaceful about. And also somebody who is transparent about their training, how they do sessions, how like the logical stuff, but it's also kind of like that inner knowing, do you connect with this person? Because I've met Reiki practitioners that I haven't connected with, but that doesn't mean that what they're doing is wrong. It's just not, I'm not resonating in that moment in time. And but I really think that Reiki is so when you get to the essence of Reiki, it's so beautiful, it's so peaceful. It almost doesn't matter who the practitioner is, because if it's the pure energy of Reiki, it will be what I need, because you can't go wrong with Reiki. I mean, I know you're using quotes, I don't mean to do that, but it's like Reiki in its essence, you can't do harm with it.
Mm-hmm. You can't do it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And also, what advice would you give someone who is entering this profession?
Gosh, really follow your intuition, and to know that your other people's stories are not your story. And because I will get people that want to talk to me and I start realizing that they want to talk to me because of like my career path and how I went from as being aware of being a very, very intuitive to an engineer, to social work, to yoga, and then Reiki, and a very non-linear path. It was almost like my entire life I've been throwing spaghetti on the wall and just trying to figure out what sticks. And that is because I think that in our culture that we we want to be given the answers, and you have to find, I get up because I end up telling these people, like, I can share my story with you, but it isn't going to help you the way that you think it's going to help you. Like, it's not going to be like a bullet point. That is just be open to explore, take the like, if you go off on, if you make a mistake, I don't think there are mistakes. If you make a mistake, mistakes help us evolve and learn and grow. And don't think of mistakes as mistakes. Just
Learning opportunities.
yeah.
That's the way I like to refer to my mistakes. I always tell people you don't grow if you don't make mistakes, because you're missing the essence of everything that's around you that might be able to lift you up and help you along the way. So we don't often get to benefit from our mistakes, but we should all do our best to do that. Now we do have a question. Who is your go-to archangel? Or angels? Do you call in your angels for your practice, or?
Yeah, let me see, I had him here. I have a card, I don't know. Oh, here it is. My big guy is Metatron. So I don't know if you can see that. He's been communicating with me for the longest time. That I have a few that I go to, guides, but I don't mean to use a quote, like guides, but Metatron, he is the archangel of, like, he's the head archangel. If you look at the Kabbalah tree of life, that he is the archangel at the top, and he's like, he composes that his symbol that you can see right here, that it looks like the Star of David, but it's Merkaba. It's like two pyramids in a two-dimensional. It looks like the Star of David. Is that what the heart chakra is? That if you look at the heart chakra that we have on the ICRT Reiki manuals, that is also because it's unification of the higher chakras and the lower chakra. So this is, you can kind of see the two triangles merging. And he just always really has been there for me. Like, he's like a contain, like I use him in my Reiki sessions, and he come to me whenever I need to put a container of energy in a person, whether it is for something emotional or physical. But I think he's really someone that brings in the divine into physical form, because he has all the shapes of being and within that triangle, like a circle, a triangle, a square, the pyramid. So that's who I really resonate with. And if you wanted other people, Kuan Yin, Saint Francis of Assisi, and Mother Mary. So those are like my, like, I believe I have like a whole collective, but those are the ones that I feel speak to, that are the ones that I connect most with right now in this time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that with us, because that is a question that comes up frequently. And, I love to hear people's responses on that. That's the best feedback. Personal experience is obviously the best barometer of that. And thank you so much. And also, we like to also ask folks, what books do you recommend? Are there anything, what has spoken to you, resonates with you? What do you carry around in your briefcase?
That is a great question. I love anything by Brian Weiss. He doesn't do Reiki. He does past life regression, but I talk about him a lot in my Reiki 2 classes, because we have the distance Reiki, where you send Reiki to someone on the other side of the world, to the future, to the past. And he's not doing Reiki. I want to make that very clear, but he is doing something divine, or he's connecting to something divine. But his story is that when he first started, he came from a skeptic, very linear, logical, to being a believer in these mystical realms, the magic around us, the universe, the love that is around us, that he asked a question of one of his clients, go back to when your problem first began. And she jumped back into a lifetime in ancient Egypt. And they were both kind of like, whatever, like this, she's just making this up. But she started getting better, and he started having some experiences. So anything by Brian Weiss, Messages from the Masters is my favorite. Carolyn Myss, MYSSS, Anatomy of the Spirit. Really, because in that book, she talks about, she explores the different religion path, all this, that there's certain levels that all religions, spiritual paths follow, and there's like a similarity between all of them, and it's represented within the human body. So it's kind of like the chakra system, all that. So I really like her. Also, I have this right here is Louise Hay. You Can Heal Your Life. You can tell this is from like the 80s, the way that like all the rainbow look of it. But it's really how your thoughts have power and create your reality. It's not like, oh, it's not like it doesn't, that you can't, there's some things that you can't change, but you can change how you view them. And when you change how you view it, there's this whole thing that just expands in front of you. So this is something I also talk about in my level 2 class with the emotional intellectual harmony symbol, and like bringing healing in that way, the power of your thoughts, creating a reality.
Beautiful. So with all that being said, and all those, the wonderful feedback about your books and your classes, I'm sitting here, where can people find you if they are interested in a session or connecting with you?
And there's a few different places. You can go to my website, jerrymikutis.com. It is my first name and last name. You can find me on YouTube. I have some meditations uploaded there, that astrology meditation, heart chakra meditation. You can follow me on Instagram. That Instagram is Jerry. Just look me up my first name and last name. It's like Jerry Lynn, but the E is a 3. I know that's kind of like, but I have pictures of nature on there that have connected. So right now that's where I'm at, like on that. But those are the places that you can find me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So that ends my questions. Do you have, Tracy's going to go into the social media questions, and if you have anything to add there, please feel free. What we do is we engage the audience and we ask them to send us questions that they have. Tracy goes ahead and boils those down to the 3 top questions, and we like to present those to you. So Tracy, I'm going to turn that back to you. And again, Jerry, that was a beautiful interview. I loved the amount of sharing you did, and I'm certain that everybody is going to enjoy our podcast with you as a guest. So Tracy, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Millie. Thank you so much, Jerry. So, Ready Set Reiki is a weekly podcast. We are released every Sunday, and we invite our listeners to participate by asking questions. And you're able to connect in with us on social media, our webpage, www.readysetreiki.com, or personally emailing us. So we had lots of questions for you, so I had to do my best to narrow it down to 3. So the first one you have touched on lightly throughout the interview sessions, but you maybe have an opportunity just to narrow it down a little bit. Do you mix any other healing modalities with your Reiki?
I do. Because as I said, I mentioned that yoga is what led me to Reiki. But back when I discovered Reiki was not in yoga studios. I think there was one yoga studio in Chicago. That's where I learned Reiki, my first Reiki class. But it wasn't something that was merged together. And what I started doing, I got the inspiration by seeing other people doing it, but I had my own spin on it, was that, so when you get a Reiki session in person, you're lying down, you go into it, like the practitioner places their hand on your body, around your body, and you're just in a relaxed meditative state. And one of the styles of yoga that I really appreciate and like is yin yoga, which is you're basically laying there in poses, and yin yoga is about releasing them. A lot of it is releasing the muscular action so that the joint, that is like turning off the red tissue, such as the muscles, the active part of ourselves, and easing into the soft spaces, the fascia, the connective tissue of the body, the joint, and having an opening that way. And so since you are already in a relaxed state, because I wouldn't really, can't really see myself doing Reiki in a vinyasa class unless it's the very beginning or the very ending where there's like, sun flutes, moving, action. I mean, I'm not saying that that's not possible, but that isn't within my vision of how I explore Reiki. So yin yoga has been a really wonderful complement that I was able to merge them together, that people get a Reiki session. And even though I'm not touching them, Reiki is flowing in the room. I do crystals and Reiki. So crystals are in my Reiki classes. I do teach about crystals, but I also have crystal classes that are separate from my Reiki classes. You don't have to be a Reiki practitioner, but feel like it's very complementary because crystals come from the earth. They expand on, they really help us ground us and connect to the earth, and they all have different qualities of it. And it was just a very good harmony. So my advice for someone who is trying to like merge Reiki with other modalities, just sit with it. And I think it's really following your own inner intuition. If you're listening to this and be like, yeah, I can do a Reiki vinyasa class. Don't tell me I can't do that. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that what it has shown to me, but I'm also going to bring in logical advice within that, is that I think Reiki is compatible with, like, you can't do, as I said, you can't do harm with Reiki, but Reiki in yourself, when you are receiving it, that you may go into an altered state of consciousness, like a very relaxed, almost dream state, almost meditation. So I feel it's best complementary with those practices where you're already being in a quiet space. So that's why I think is wonderful with restorative yoga, yin yoga, meditation, crystals, those places of centering and coming true. But it's not to say that it can't exist in a more active environment. It's just that's been my path with it.
Sure. Wonderful. Wonderful. And also in that yin, you're holding that shape for 3 to 5 minutes. So if you need to get up and lay hands on, that's a perfect opportunity, and restorative as well, where you're holding that shape for a longer period of time. So wonderful. So our next question is someone who is brand new, that curious beginner that we also love. We love all our listeners, but we just bring joy to us when we have someone who's new and wants to discover. And that's why we call ourselves guides, because we're guiding people along on this process as well. So I'm new to Reiki. What does a Reiki treatment feel like?
It can be anything. And because I think for everyone, like, everyone's going to have their own unique experience of it, but everyone is going to be relaxed. Like, I think that's the only guarantee that I can give a Reiki session, is that you're going to be relaxed. How that's going to manifest is going to be different for each person. That you may just be laying there quietly. You may because like we all have, I really believe that we're all psychic. We're just not aware of it. And when I say psychic, is that you are aware of an extra sensory of all of your senses. So we have the one that people talk about the most are clairvoyant, that you have clear seeing, you could have clear audience, that you can hear, you can have a smell, taste, touch, and a knowing. And what comes forth with that is going to be unique to each person, because I think when I teach Reiki, people are expecting like the heaven to open up and like, duh, this is Reiki. And you may have that experience, but most people, it's more of the quieting down, listening to the little tiny whispers. So what I would say that people would expect from a Reiki session is that you will feel calm, you will feel relaxed. You may have sensory experiences, you may see colors, you may feel like you're dreaming, you may not, nothing may ever happen, but you just make it up and you're just a little bit more quiet and centered and not so swayed by the world around you when you leave. So it really depends on everyone, but I really think the most important thing, most prominent thing is that you will be relaxed.
Wonderful, for sure, for sure. So our next question, you have been a client, a student, and a teacher. So, can you share your favorite Reiki experience?
Oh my gosh, that is, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I can't. I don't know if I can think of, I think it's just what other coincidences, like the coincidences that have come to me over the years. My Reiki journey is, it goes in waves. I see it as like an ocean wave. Sometimes I'm just so open and so connected and life is perfect. And other times it's like, man, my life is really a mess. And I'm going to admit right now, my life is kind of a mess. That I'm in a low spot right now, but I'm still feel connected to Reiki. But I also know that Reiki really, I can just think of a million different things. But it's just all the little coincidences that Reiki has really opened my awareness to the divine around me, that the divine is everywhere, and just being observed of I'm just having all these experiences and I'm like, which one should I share? I guess like one thing that come to me that is coming to me right now is a little bit superficial, but as I mentioned, I'm deaf and I wear cochlear implants. You really probably can't see them because they're about the same color as my hair. I'm going to take off one of them so you can kind of see it. So I have like a magnet in my head and I don't hear in this ear right now. And they're pretty reliable, but they're also fragile. And that's how I hear. And I was about to go on a trip, and how I can tell they're not working is they get staticky. That just because the electronics aren't wearing out. And when I was about to go on a flight, I changed the part that I thought was broken. And I'm at the airport and I'm like, it's still broken. And I'm going to be on this trip. And it was all static, like just hearing that static getting me very frustrated. And I was getting angry. I was getting angry at myself. I was angry at my implant. And I was just angry at the situation. And by the time I got to my destination, and I was able to order a second part, but it was going to take a couple of days. So I was frustrated that all this stuff. And I just remember I sat down and I was in Starbucks waiting for my friend in downtown San Diego, but one of like those neighborhoods in San Diego, like all hipster. And I was like, I got to change my attitude. So I took off my implant, I gave it Reiki. And I'm not saying Reiki, I sat down and Reiki'd it, I Reiki'd my attitude. And until I got that part, until like about an hour before I got my part, like 2 days later, the static didn't happen. I don't know if it was, I'm not saying Reiki replaces adequate care of your physical items, but it could have been that it could have been that my implant was broken and the part needed to be replaced, but my anger and my was tipping it over the edge. Or they did start acting static again, but I became more centered within it. And I was just like, okay, I'm sorry. Like I'm stressing about things I shouldn't be stressing about. And that it will be all okay. Even though in the moment I'm like, no, I need to take control of it. But that's like one thing that popped into my mind now.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. Well, that ends our social media questions. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we thank our listeners for showing up and downloading and just supporting us on all levels. So, if you are interested in listening to us, you can find us on social media. Check out on our listings at www.ReadySetReiki.com. So, it has been a joy to have you, Jerry. Thank you so much. So I have been your guide, Tracy Searight, and your second guide.
And I'm Millie Pampina, and I'd like to leave you with our little tagline here, that to see beauty in all things is a choice. Please choose wisely.
All right. Thank you, friends. It has been a pleasure, and this has been Ready, Set, Reiki.